Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Freeport City Council, Monday, March 3rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. I will declare that there is a quorum, and at this time I would like to ask Councilman Rosso to lead us in the pledge and the prayer.
Let's pray. Lord, we're so grateful that you gave us another chance to come together to make some decisions. We ask you, Lord, to be with us, lead us and guide us, Lord. Bless the council, the mayor, the city assistant attorney, and all the people that are here. We ask you, Lord, to bless us as only you can. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, and you may be seated. Before we move on tonight, I do have a couple comments to make. First off, due to the way that the previous meeting transpired and for the possible nature of items that will be on agendas in the foreseeable future, I want to make a few things clear. This council will act in a professional manner when up here making decisions for the city of Freeport. I will continue to encourage comments from our citizens and on topics. I will encourage comments from our citizens and on-topic comments from our council. In an effort to run our meetings in an orderly fashion, I will not put up with any more disruptive behavior, such as, but not limited to, talking over the citizens or commenting during citizens' comments, talking over other councilmen during any part of the meeting, especially during an agenda item discussion, or using this platform to promote personal agendas that are not related to the current agenda item. These types of actions are not only disruptive and unproductive, but are also highly unprofessional. As mayor, I will no longer put up with this type of behavior from council. Instead of continually slamming the gavel, I will start having people removed for disrupting an official public meeting. So council, let this be the warning. This stops now. Next comment, I'm going to refer to legal about something that has happened in the city recently.
Mayor, Council, I know you are all aware of the fact that the city received a representation letter for Lance Petty is now as city manager represented by legal counsel. We're going to discuss that later in executive session, but I wanted the public to know that we are aware of this and we are working with all parties to try to resolve the matter and move forward. But as of now, Lance Petty is still, he's not here tonight, but he's still the city manager, fully acting, full access from the public, and should continue to do all the duties of city manager.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we will move on with citizens' comments. And first up, we have Ms. Donna Fisher.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Donna Fisher, and I am proud to serve as an employee of the City of Freeport. During a recent Facebook post, Councilman Pena invited any employee who signed the letter of support for City Manager Lance Petty to step forward and address council. I am here tonight to respond to Councilman Pena's invitation and to share my perspective. I did not feel pressured to sign the letter of support. I did not feel that my job depended on my signing, and Mr. Petty never spoke to me about the letter of support. Regarding concerns about a city employee collecting signatures during work hours, I checked the time card, and this employee used vacation hours. Regarding the statement that a vote for Mr. Petty was a vote against the police department, I don't see it that way. I firmly believe that supporting Mr. Petty and supporting the police department are not mutually exclusive. I have not witnessed Mr. Petty commit any acts that could be considered retaliation. He has not disciplined, demoted, or terminated any employee of the police department, and no employee has reported any such acts to me. If I were to receive a report of retaliation by Mr. Petty, I would report such to the mayor and all of council, as is my legal, moral, and ethical responsibility to uphold the integrity of our city government. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Next, we have Ms. Pam Dancy.
Hello, council. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Pamela Dancy, 3 South Front Street, and my phone number, 979-482-4682. Landline, 979-233-6962. And I want to address something that took place after the meeting that was so bizarre. But I'm walking out. Next thing I know, Councilman Matamoros is walking up next to me and got in my personal space, and he kept saying over and over, "I know about you," and I'm thinking, it was like a threat, like he was going to let some cat out of the bag. And then he said what it was, and the way you express yourself, I thought you were going to say I had somebody buried a body in my backyard or something. Then I had this little umbrella on my wrist, and it was closed up. It's a child's umbrella. And you said, "Don't touch me, don't touch me." This might have tapped him. I have no clue because it was on my wrist. But you made something up about me that is so insane. And I don't know where you got that from, but I will say this. I'm not upset. I'm not mad at him because he has something up here. I think he needs a therapist, seriously. Seriously, because I'm walking out. Next thing I know, you're right there with me, all up in my personal space. And if you have something on me, then I will give you, the reason I gave you my phone number, and yeah, I'm nervous right now, is I'll give you till Wednesday, and I'll meet you at the police station, and we can, discuss this. And if you're not there by 4:30 on Wednesday, then I'll let it go. But I
Mayor,
will say this,
just a minute.
Excuse me?
We're really not supposed to be
Yes, sir, I know.
speaking to individual council
Oh, I'm
members.
sorry.
Okay.
But I will say this, I'll direct towards you, is that it was so bizarre and insane, and it's a lie. It's a made-up something or another. And if he happens to have something, which I can't see how he could, by Wednesday, 4:30, I'll wait for him up in her office, the chief's office. If he doesn't show up, then I'll let it go. But if he ever approaches me in my space and makes any allegations towards me that are untrue, I will put a whatchamacallit on him. I forget what it's called right now. And I will take him to court because this was a made-up lie of some sort. And there's no way he has any proof of this made-up lie about me. But anyway, yeah, there's something wrong up here. You're unhinged. Thank you.
Although we do encourage citizens' comments, we prefer to have them towards city business. Next up, we have Miss Brenda Laird. This fixing to go off.
Well, I hope this is about city business. This is about the police who I love. I didn't know about it. I'm Brenda Laird, 1005 North Avenue B. I didn't know about any controversy with the police and the city manager. I didn't expect to see you sitting there. That's intimidating. I am crazy about our police department and our fire department, and I'm working on a book where I have a police character. And so for years and years, I've been going to citizens police academies and talking to the police and trying to find out what it's like to live the lives that they live. And Friday night, I went on a ride-along. I've been on several. But I was just so deeply impressed as a person, as a citizen. You know, it was 6 to 11 Friday night, black dark. And we're at home, taking care of our business, relaxing at night. It was about 7:30 that thing happened that just really hit me really hard. We had been out, and there had been a couple of crash scenes, and the officers work with each other, and I got a chance to see how they're working together and, you know, getting a reading on the police officer I was riding with. And we rode by out here, and he looked up at Chief Howell's window, and it was lit up. This was 7:30 at night, and he said, "Chief's still working." And I could hear the admiration in his voice, and it was a perfect chance for me to turn to him and say, what'd she like to work for my book, and as a citizen of Freeport. And he said, "She's my North Star." And, you know, I'm like, okay. And this is a big strapping man who's his own person, a police officer. And he didn't mind saying that this lady is his North Star. And I asked him, "So what do you mean?" And he meant, you know, she leads him in his education as a police officer and his development. And she's told him no a couple of times, but for the most part, she just respects him. And I just want to say to y'all as a council that I feel so safe. I know there's controversy there. I've been living here in Freeport for 28 years, and there's always been controversy of one kind, you know. But I know as a citizen, I live right over there on Avenue B, and I feel safe with our police force. Our fire department's the same. Chief Motley, you know, the senior citizens, the police, and the fire department guys go out there and they help us, and they're so sweet to us. Our police, I feel safe and happy that the force wants to be working for her. And I'm so thankful to y'all. I taught Jarvis's son. I've known Jarvis forever. You know, I live here and I love Freeport. And I'm so thankful that y'all are working hard to take care of us. I know your job is very, very difficult. Fielding citizens' phone calls, fielding all the different personalities and things that happen. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laird. Mr. Sam Reyna.
Mayor, Council, good evening. My
Good
name is Sam Reyna, and I reside in 2002 North Avenue G. I've addressed this issue with the council not once or twice, but 3 or 4 times, and I'm doing it again because the police and fire departments are trying to adopt a civil service commission. There are some drawbacks to utilizing a church. Probably the most notable drawback is the fact that all of your property taxes above and beyond your base tax value number go into the church funds. For the church district, that's great, but for the rest of the city, there are other things to consider. There are city support services such as the police department and the fire department that the city has to pay for out of its general funds. And the property taxes that the church is creating aren't going into the general fund to help pay for those departments and services. If we need more policemen, firemen, city planners, and any other city employee due to growth in the church area, The funding will not come from the TERS funds, it will come from the city's general fund. And regardless of property tax appraisal growth, only the base amount of property tax revenue will go into the city's general fund. That's one of the reasons we don't have enough money in our general fund to support the Civil Service Commission. Startup fees for adopting the Civil Service Commission the first year is between $25,000 to several hundred thousand, depends on the population. Then there's the yearly expenditures the city has to pay. I respect and support the blue, but I love my city the most. Been here 82 years. I'm not going anywhere. I'll finish my journey in Freeport. So I want my tax dollars properly used. If this governing body decides to place the adoption of a Civil Service Commission on a November's ballot and the citizens vote to adopt the ordinance, my advice is to dissolve the TERS Project 1. The TERS can be dissolved at any time as long as debt has not been issued and remains outstanding. By dissolving the TERS 1, the city will generate 150 to 200,000 of property tax revenue. That will go into our general fund. That will pay for the setup and yearly expenditures of the Civil Service Commission if it's adopted. This TERS area is another of Kelty's blunders, siphoning money out of the general fund. If you're listening, Mr. Petty, I know you have your hands full cleaning up Kelty's mess. I personally want to thank you for getting rid of both Kelty and Casey Roman. You were the catalyst behind the departure of those two. If it wasn't for you, those two would still be milking the cow. You have saved the city a lot of money. My advice, Mr. Petty, any and everything Kelty initiated, get a magnifying glass and review. Also, all the personnel Kelty hired will sooner or later stab you in the back. Surround yourself with your own staff that will be loyal to you. And there's been city managers that have completely gotten rid of everybody. We had one city manager got rid of the fire chief, police chief, finance director, the building official. He fired, the only one standing was David, the street person. He fired everybody and brought in his own crew. And that's what you have to do, Mr. Petty. Bring in your own staff, your own administration. Otherwise, you're in a world of trouble. And again, thank you, Mr. Petty, for the work you've been doing. I appreciate you, and the city should also appreciate you because you have saved us a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyna. Next, we have Mr. Manning Rollerson.
Good afternoon, council.
Good evening.
One, when you said about city business, it's about city business. The reputation and your integrity is city business when you're a city leader. That matters. It all matters. And how you handle the citizen matters. We just can't brush over none of this. We can't brush over what Tim Kelty did. We can't brush over what Ezel did. We can't brush over what happened with Troy Brimage. We can't brush over none of this. Because all of this got us to where we at today. All of this. We have an issue in this city with transparency. We have an issue with this city when it comes to accountability. Nobody's held accountable. We watch everything out of this city about all kinds of embezzlements, all kinds of misappropriation with funds. But now we like it's lottie-dooty. It ain't nothing. It is something because anybody else could be held criminally for those same things. Jeff Pons was held accountable also, if we want to go back to that. And when you go to appraising city managers for doing things that you saying that Lance is doing, remember Troy did the same thing and came back and got the city with Brexit LLC. So at the same time, the same characters and same people are still up here. That was a part of all of this, okay? When it comes down to it, none of this can be resolved until we fix these issues. The citizens need their money back. Where's the accountability? You used it on Jeff Pines. Where's the accountability out of Tim Kilty and Ezel? Where's the accountability? Because the taxpayers need their money. We don't have good infrastructure. We don't have good sidewalks. You know, the ditches can't be cleaned. There's a budget shortfall. IRS problems. There has to be some accountability. And with y'all as leadership, don't y'all think y'all need to be asking for accountability instead of signing non-disclosure agreements where the citizens are screwed in the long run out of a law firm that's supposed to know better? An officer of the court. The problem is trustworthiness. The problem is criminality. The problem is no respect. Citizens deserve better. I live in a city that's highly impacted with petrochemical companies. No responsibility. If I'm watching this, how dangerous it is for the citizens because you're doing this. Travel all over the world to find out who's responsible. The insurance company's responsible. They have a contingency plan. Why haven't you fought for the citizens that was POD dumped on in June of 2022? This council's supposed to do something about that. We were poisoned, and you're saying nothing. Y'all need to wake up.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. I have two citizens' comments that were given to me. Both of them sent anonymously, and I was asked to read these tonight. The first one: good evening, Council. I am replying to a request that was made by Councilmember Pena on Saturday, 2/22/2025. Councilmember Pena made a post on Facebook saying that the City of Freeport employees that signed the letter of support to the city manager, Lance Petty, to speak up and defend their support of Lance Petty over the police department. Before I make my response, know that I will always support the police department, public works, fire department, golf course, rec center, museum, and city hall equally. Because as an employee of the City of Freeport, I must support every department with equality. If you don't, you have the division we have now. This is my response to his request because I might not be able to make the council meeting. In Councilmember Pena's post, he said, if the employees that didn't sign the letter of support for Lance Petty, the Freeport city manager, would face retaliation or be fired. That is 100,000,000% false. When I signed the letter of support, I was under no pressure of losing my job, unlike now with the fear of retaliation from the sitting council member for supporting the city manager and reading my response to council members Pena's request. Lance Petty has shown time and time again his dedication and support to both the City of Freeport's citizens and its employees, whether as city manager or as his previous role as Public Works Director. To have a sitting council member act the way he does, inciting division within the city staff and creating a hostile work environment in both internal and external, is not appropriate and should not be the reason I have to write this. I have support for both the police department and Lance Petty. I will not support the divide that this council member is trying to install here. I am sick and tired of all the false and defamatory statements that a council member has been spewing, and it needs to stop. The Freeport Police Department will always have my support, no matter what they think, but I will not sit by and continuously watch a council member vilify, crucify, and demoralize any City of Freeport employee and sitting council member of the great city and try to use employees for his vendettas. The reason I am making this response anonymously is not in fear of retaliation from any City of Freeport employee, whether the person is my director, position or just a regular employee. The reason I am submitting this anonymously is in fear of retaliation from a council member. The next one I have was also sent anonymously. Dear Mayor and City Council members, I am writing to you today with a deep sense of concern regarding the state of our city, which has been negatively affected by the actions of Councilman Pena. It is with a heavy heart and great hesitation that I express my fears about the potential retaliation that may follow my voicing these concerns. This is why I rather remain anonymous. But it is necessary for the well-being and future of our community that we address the issues caused by his leadership. Over the course of his time in office, Councilman Pena has unfortunately become a source of division within our city. His actions and decisions have alienated many members of our community, gradually destroying the sense of unity that is essential for our city's success, rather than fostering an inclusive environment. His leadership has deepened rifts and created a toxic atmosphere, which has harmed the progress our city could otherwise have made. The consequences of his decisions have extended beyond personal conflicts within the community. He has deeply tarnished our city's image and hindered its ability to move forward together in harmony. His divisive actions have contributed to widespread discontent and frustration, and the negative impact on the spirit of our city is undeniable. The damage done to our community will take years to repair. It is evident that Councilman Pena's leadership has in many ways hindered our city's potential to thrive. His poor leadership and reckless decision-making have not only pushed many away, but have also hindered our process as a community. For these reasons, I strongly believe it is time for him to step down from the position as councilman. The continued tension and division caused by his actions will only worsen if he remains in office. Our city deserves leadership that fosters unity, progress, and a sense of shared responsibility. While I understand that resignation is a difficult decision, I am confident that it is the best course of action for both Councilman Pena's personal integrity and for the future well-being of our community. The ongoing harm caused by his leadership must be addressed if we are able to begin rebuilding the trust that has been lost. Given these circumstances, I urge you to request that Councilman Pena step down from his position. His resignation is necessary for us to heal and move forward, and the city's future depends on leadership that unites rather than divides. Thank you for your time and consideration for this important matter. I trust that you will act in the best interest of our community and work towards a solution that will help heal the wounds caused by this divisive leadership. Respectfully, a supporter of law enforcement and your city manager. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our citizens' comments. It'll take us to agenda item 2A, consideration and possible action approving the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025. Council, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion to approve the minutes by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Rosso. Council, is there any discussion or comments needed on this item?
On approving the minutes?
Yes, sir, on the minutes.
Yes. So last meeting we had, on the minutes, we adjourned the meeting. And we still had items.
Okay, this is not.
Oh, that's not a discussion?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. We had items on that agenda that we hadn't gotten to. So I was understanding, do we have to resubmit them items again, or they don't just roll over to the next meeting? How do we go about
You want
that?
to take that, legal?
Yeah, I don't know specifically what happened with this one, but it's my understanding, is that the case? It was not rolled over?
No, we have nothing on here. And we had
Well,
three.
was it, no, was it at the end of the meeting?
No, we hadn't even got to, we had
So
three
there's
more.
requests for items we didn't get to because the meeting was adjourned?
Yes, sir.
Your question is, should it have been rolled over to this
Yes, sir.
meeting? Y'all decide that.
It should have been.
At the staff level, I don't know what steps were taken.
Right, nothing was, I mean, the meeting was just adjourned, and now we come to a meeting and it's nothing on here. So if we requested agenda items on the meeting, they were approved and they were placed on the
no,
agenda.
I understand
and we
that.
didn't talk about them. They should be.
You would like those
So I don't know the
automatically?
rule, but either we have to send them back in. I need to know, because
Well, I don't know how the request was made. If it was made for a specific meeting, my suggestion would be that you say, you put something in the request that states that this goes on the meeting. If this item is not reached for any reason, that it be addressed at the following meeting until it is reached.
yeah, so it shouldn't have to be approved again or whatever. It shouldn't be no discrepancy that it be put on the next meeting.
Well, I think we can talk about this another time because I don't want to get into it under this item. But my suggestion would be that you send an email reaffirming your prior request.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the agenda, gentlemen? Hearing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, I'm sorry?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2. We have agenda item 2B, consideration and possible action approving resolution number 2025-2906 for annual reaffirmation of ordinance 2024-2726, establishing the city's ethics policy for all elected and appointed officials and all city employees. Ms. Fisher.
Yes, this is the annual reaffirmation of the ethics policy. The ethics policy was updated and adopted in 2024. There have been no changes made to it for 2025, so it is just the annual reaffirmation, which is required by the ethics ordinance. And staff recommends approval of this, the readoption.
Council,
I'll make a motion to table it.
we have a motion to table by Councilman Pena. Is there a second?
Wait, you, oh, I can't answer a question before the motion.
We have a motion on the floor to table. Is there a second?
Well, I'd just like to know why you want to table it. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'll second it. Just so we have a discussion and then.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Davis. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, I wanted to table this simply because I'm just kind of wondering why it's even on the agenda. I mean, I know that Ms. Fisher just explained that it's an annual, but I'm just wondering why our agenda tonight only has this particular item when we had all those other pressing items.
It is on this agenda because I submitted
No,
it
that's
last-
not, that's the question's not for you, Ms. Fisher. It's for the mayor.
We don't have to.
And thank you, though, for your work. But I do have a couple of other questions for you in a minute.
Well, if they're agenda-related, please ask.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious how you decided that this was going to be the only thing tonight on the agenda when we had all those other pressing items that included the discussion about the grievances and the complaints and the concerns that the police department
All right, this.
had. That's what I want to know.
Councilman Pena?
Yeah, tell me.
This
Because I
is-
don't want you to say, oh, well, I don't have an answer like you've done before.
This is what I'm talking about talking off topic.
We can have a conversation.
This is what I'm talking about talking off topic.
You don't get to control the dialogue, though, Jerry.
I'm not trying to control the dialogue, Mr. Pena. I'm trying to control the meeting. Right now, we are talking about consideration and possible action improving this ordinance, which has been tabled.
So any comments or questions? My comments on this is that this particular agenda is a miscarriage of the justice and transparency that the police association and the residents
Do
are
you
looking
consider
for.
this off topic?
I think
It's a comment on the topic, sir.
the topic being the ordinance.
No, being tabled.
Yeah, I think the only thing that y'all should be talking about is why you're tabling this particular ordinance.
Do you vote on it?
Thank you.
The vote, once y'all are done deliberating why the issue's being tabled, then
Yeah.
yes, and anybody can call the vote
Oh, okay.
at any time.
Well, that's another good way we can go ahead and just circumvent the discussion, is that somebody wants to table this right off the bat, feel free to just go ahead and do that. I will go ahead and just want to ask the questions here. Has this ordinance been, and this is probably a question for Ms. Fisher and for that matter, legal, has this ordinance since last year been violated by any councilman, by any elected official, by any city official that you're aware of?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you mind coming up to the microphone, please, and give that formal answer?
I think the way to answer that is nothing is, no, this is a
Legal-
question for me.
Well, hold on, let her answer my question first, please.
Nothing has been reported to me as a violation of that ordinance.
That's all I was gonna suggest, is that we're not in the business of trying to hunt for this. If we receive a complaint, we investigate. We have
Right.
not received a complaint.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding how we're playing games with this thing, and I'm gonna tell you, and I'll have more editorial on that later, so that I can expose the differences. There's a disparity. This isn't about trying to create division. This is about to expose the disparity by those who want no transparency and those that do. So my other question is, my question becomes on this from the ordinance that was adopted last year, and it's apparently the very same one verbatim. Is that correct, Ms. Fisher? Okay. Just want to be abundantly clear about that. And I'm just curious for any of the violations that, or the rules and regulations that are being applied to the city council, or for that matter, any city management staff. What is the process for accountability? What are the measures? What section of this ordinance articulates what those measures are? And for that matter, who is responsible for actually applying those? Because I'm just curious that if anything comes up, I want to know who's responsible for enforcing the accountability, because I want to make sure that I can highlight going forward that when this particular ordinance was violated in 2024, and for that matter in 2025 up to date, that then we are responsible, whatever the method is, for responsibility and holding these particular individuals accountable, that I want to make sure that the public is crystal clear on who's responsible for applying responsibility and accountability on these elected individuals and senior management officials. So,
I have no authority as human resources manager to apply anything to council, to elected officials. If a city employee, if I get a report of a city employee violating the ethics ordinance, then as HR director, I can investigate that. But as far as elected officials, as HR director, I have no authority over y'all.
and does this particular ethics ordinance have any provisions in terms of social media for city staff, firstly?
City staff has a separate social media policy in our personnel policy handbook.
Okay.
It's not specifically addressed in the ethics ordinance. The ethics ordinance it covers a lot of ground of ethical behavior, but not, like I said, social media policy for employees is a whole separate policy in our policy handbook.
And does any of this ordinance violate the First Amendment? I'm curious.
No.
I'm asking Ms. Fisher, and then I'll ask legal.
Well,
But you can't answer a question about a legal interpretation of the First Amendment, so.
so that's not a question I'm able to answer.
So that's a question then for
That's not a
legal.
question that I'm able to answer. That would be a legal question.
Yeah, so then my question for Olson and Olson is for the record is, does this have any language that limits the dialogue of any city councilman? Any freedom of speech?
Well, there are limitations, there are authorized limitations.
And what are those limitations are defined as? Are those specifically and only those that are client attorney privileged pieces of information?
not sure I understand the question.
Well, I'm just trying to understand how we're going to try to corral what people say, which is actually freedom of speech.
I'm not sure what you're saying. What people? There's different policies that apply. I mean, obviously, elected officials, you self-regulate. There's a whole section in here, I assume you've read this,
Yeah.
that talks about you as council by 2/3 vote will decide how you're going to publicly censure somebody up here who violates.
Right.
Doesn't have anything to do with HR.
Well, I'm glad Ms. Fisher said that she has no authority to actually, hold accountable the city council. And I want to make sure that I lean into that just a little bit more to say, by the very same token, the city council, everyone here has only one vote. And so we can't hold anybody accountable singularly. And for that matter, any city employee, or for that matter, any resident. So I want to be extra clear that no city councilman can retaliate against any individual employee or resident. So for that citizen comment, I wanted to make sure that we lean into that too, because that's a misnomer. And you would never get that from me. And so that said, my last question is, well, you know what? I'm going to hold off on my last question for now, but thank you.
All right, so council, we have a motion to table and a second. Anyone else have any comments? So I'll call the vote. All those in favor state aye.
Again, just the motion is to table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails. Legal says we can entertain a motion to approve if someone would like to make that motion.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to approve the Resolution 2025-2906 for the annual affirmation of ordinance 2024-2726.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
So you're saying that it's tabled?
Nope. Since it did not pass, legal said we can make another motion.
I thought Davis voted to table it.
It did not pass. Everybody voted no.
He seconded to table just to have the discussion about the reason to table. But I believe he still voted against tabling. It was a 4-1 vote, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Pena? You did vote for tabling? So the motion to table failed. So if you want to entertain another motion, which has been made, to approve the resolution, it needs to be seconded or that will die for lack of a second.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. And we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Matamoros and a second by Councilman Rosso. Any other conversation needed, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just a question for, it was already something we already had and we're not changing anything, right? It's just, it was so much going on. I forgot what you said.
That is correct. This is just reaffirming the ordinance that was passed a year ago. It needs to be reaffirmed every year as close to the anniversary date of passage as possible.
What?
Did we pass it last year?
Yes.
We did?
On
For 23?
the
For
second
20
go-round, yes.
For 23, we passed it?
23 was a different ordinance. 24, the ordinance had the training section added to it, and that passed. And that's the one that you are reaffirming this year, was the one that was passed in 24.
Okay.
Just for everybody's benefit, remember that this annual reevaluation and review process is built into the ordinance that y'all passed. So y'all have created this kind of annual review process, just forcing staff to bring this ordinance back to you so that you can reconsider it annually.
Well, one other question, actually, now that you mention it. Does this ordinance require an annual review of employee staff as well?
An annual
In any
review.
capacity? Well,
No, the annual review is just the ethics ordinance.
okay. And then the other comment I would have is that I know that in the last meeting, and I don't think you were here, I think Mr. Bounds was here, and this was articulated that at any time during the meeting that we can request that on the next meeting, the agenda items be added.
Absolutely. Anytime during an open meeting, you can make a motion to place something on a future meeting, yes.
Okay. So is it a motion or just a
I mean, if you want it to be formalized, a majority count to ensure that it's on a future agenda, it would need to be a formal motion.
That's not what was said before, it was simply stated.
You
it
can,
could be
if you,
requested.
that's fine. I don't care what was said before. If you would like to formalize this, it can be done motion. You can make the request, but it's not a formal motion made in open session. A majority of council is going to rule the day when you're making motions related to future agendas. So yes, you can make the request without the motion,
Okay.
but that is not going to guarantee it's going to be on the next meeting.
And I'm just trying to understand the process that we're being told on how to get items on the agenda, you know. we
What
called-
Scott talked about
Because we called
is-
for a special meeting for this coming Friday, and I've got no response from your offices on it, number one. But number two, one party of your firm says we can call it at any point in the meeting.
Gentlemen-
And now you're saying that it has to be formally voted upon.
That's what he was saying too. What was his idea of, you're going to call it unilaterally?
I'm just asking, how do we go out, put stuff on the agenda? And we're getting
Mayor,
mixed
I wouldn't
answers
even
from the
get
firm.
into the, we are going to discuss scheduling the special meeting. That's part
Yes,
of the
we-
purpose of today's meeting.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second on the floor. So, council, all those in favor
Oh,
state
sorry,
aye.
sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I got it, I got a comment. So as I was looking over it, and there's a statement made about if there was any violations of this ethics ordinance. I am going to make aware to the residents of Freeport. I would like for legal to send a letter to the district attorney and to the attorney general to have criminal charges be looked into.
Is this a motion? Is this allowed to be made?
Gentlemen, we are not going to talk over councilman.
Is it a motion, though?
And again, if he wants to instruct us to do it, he's an individual council member. I answer to a majority of council.
Okay. So as I was stating, I am aware of two violations of the ethics ordinance. There is a information training by the Office of Attorney General for Open Meetings Act. I have done a public information request. There are 3 sitting council members who have taken this training, have turned in their certificates on this training. Those 3 council members are Mayor Jerry Kane, Councilmember Winston Rosso, and myself. There are 2 others that have not taken it. State law states you have 90 days after their election or appointment to complete this required training. And thus, there are 2 that are in violation because they are outside of the 90 days.
Does this have anything to do with the resolution?
Yeah,
Well,
where's the
it's a part of
gaveling on
the
that?
ethics.
Which training is that?
Is it on the
it on the
ethics
agenda.
resolution?
Yes. Let me pull it up.
On this ordinance? You know,
That's the kind of thing that's divisive.
hold on, Councilman Pena. I'm not going to say I appreciate what you're doing, but I understand what you're doing. But I think that discussion needs to be had with legal.
Okay. I was just making it, since it's part of the ethics ordinance, I was just making it as to be known. But yes, we can have time with legal.
Thank
after
you.
that.
Which one was that?
It is the Open Meetings Act training.
I got an email in here.
Thanks, Mayor, for reining that one in. Thank you for reining that one in.
Online, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it can be done
I
online.
got that email. You,
Yeah.
just stop playing with, send it to the city secretary and then we'll take it. Yeah, I ain't worried about now.
All right, we
Call me
have,
out in front of these people.
Understand.
We're gonna have a problem.
we have a motion and a second on the table. So I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor state aye. Aye. All opposed state nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
You can't have an ethics ordinance that the leadership of the city keeps violating.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to,
We can't go into executive session.
we can.
I have a question for legal. How is it that we can call an executive session when in the last 3 or 4 meetings, it's been so difficult to get anything on the agenda, much less on executive session, unless it's specifically articulated and written out on the actual agenda for public notice, on the signs outside of the city hall, and for that matter, on the website. And then here tonight, we have nothing on here about executive session. And we're going to go into executive session to talk about what? And this is the problem that the public has with how you guys are facilitating these meeting agendas, because what happens is you guys put consult with an attorney, and everybody's like, what the hell are y'all talking about? And why aren't y'all spelling it out? So how do you explain that, Olson?
Yes, please do.
Well, one of the reasons why I brought up or made the statement at the beginning of the meeting was for that very reason. Is some information has come to our attention in the last several days that I need to update council about, and it's absolutely well within y'all's right to consult with legal counsel about stuff like that. Now, when we have adequate notice of information, and depending on whether there's an actual pending litigation or otherwise, personnel matters is a good example, we're required to post specifics. This is an exception to that rule. So I am obligated by my rules of professional responsibility to convey some information to you that I've received today. And so we are going to consult with legal counsel in executive session so I can update counsel and answer questions about that matter.
Is that matter the same subject matter as it relates to Lance Petty that was for the requested special meeting for this coming Friday at noon? Is it the same subject matter?
It is the precursor to that discussion, yes, just to lay the foundation so that we then can post a proper meeting and identify it, yes.
We've already requested a proper meeting.
I'm aware of that.
Special
We're going to discuss that as well.
meeting. Thank you.
All right, it is now 6:52, and we are going to close this regular meeting of the Freeport City Council and move into executive session. Executive session is going to be consultation with our attorney.